Hey everyone, welcome to this episode. In this episode, we are talking to Geoff Griffith. Geoff is a former professional rugby player, and you'll see by the size of his arms, and is MD at Builtvisible. Builtvisible is an incredible agency specializing in SEO, content and analytics, working with some of the most important global brands in the world. And in this interview, we try to understand how they made it. How did they go from zero to hero? We try to understand the psychology, the physiology. We try to understand the psychology, the philosophy, the methodology, and we also dig into Geoff's style of leadership, which is very coaching and mentoring oriented. It's very interesting. And also, we try to get to understand, if you're a small agency, how do you go about growing as much as they did? And if you're a brand, how do you go about selecting the right agency or managing your own in-house team? It's a very interesting conversation. I hope you enjoy it and you get value from it. Take care and enjoy the show. So Geoff, thanks a lot for being here.
No worries. Thank you.
Awesome. So I think we need to kick it out with telling those few people out there who don't know who you are, who Geoff is. You know, you were not always an MD. You were not always an SEO guy.
Yeah.
You were playing on the field.
I was. I mean, yeah, I think like everyone in SEO has a strange story of how they get into it, don't they? So mine was that I was a professional rugby player when I left uni, and did that for a couple of years. I just realised I didn't think it was like the thing for me to do long term. A few injuries, etc. So yeah, moved to London. I was really interested in digital. I've been writing for the BBC when I was a player. Got into digital, wondering how I can get people to see what I've written, very egotistical. And yeah, just got into the agency world. So did a couple of agencies, learned about SEO, and then joined SEO Gadget at the time, back in the day. So that was 5 years ago, and it's been sort of a whirlwind since then. But hugely enjoyable.
Yeah,
hugely enjoyable.
5 years ago that was.
Yeah,
crazy.
It was.
And when did you guys rebrand into Builtvisible?
I did rebrand about 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
3-4 years ago. So just to reflect better what we actually did. So we were, very much a technical strategic consultancy around SEO. Obviously, Richard was very well known for that. Just the way the industry went, we needed to be positioned in a much better way in order to win the type of clients we wanted to work with.
Yeah.
I think it's really important if people are turning up to work, they've got a brand that they can buy into and be proud of. So, and we still have it. We could, we could refresh it a little bit here and there, but we still have that, which is great.
Well, classic mirror, we kind of dove into it very quickly. Why don't we tell everybody what Builtvisible is? Because Builtvisible is an agency we always looked up to when it comes to SEO. And when I say we, I mean us, Genie Goals. And we come from the paid performance media. You guys come from the organic, so the two complement themselves very well. But as you know, it's always very difficult to recommend another agency. We always felt very comfortable in recommending you guys, and I think from the inside we understand why. We kind of perceive the quality of what you do, but I guess that's not always very easy from a brand, from a customer perspective. So why don't we start by telling what Builtvisible is, what it does, and also why are you guys so good?
Well, okay, so I think firstly, your point around recommendation, I think the reason that works nicely for you guys is because you are a specialist agency, and whenever I talk about the business, we are a specialist SEO content and analytics agency. We've broadened out from SEO on purpose while retaining a specialism with incredibly complementary services that we need to understand. They need to understand each other, and it also coming with that angle allows us to be empathetic to the wider digital landscape, which I think is something that SEOs are quite guilty of not doing. So I think that's why I think there's a bit of synergy there, so to speak. But essentially, we're a specialist SEO content analytics agency. We typically work across financial services, travel, and e-commerce, and that's not necessarily by design. They're just all very high competition verticals where people need to get bang for their buck, and we seem to do well in them. And it's all these kinds of things. Most of our business was built off referrals and just trying to do a good job and get recommendations, which means if you're doing that within a sector, it will tend to be quite self-proliferating. we now have this client base that sort of marries up against that. So
so you talked about those three verticals, so to speak, as being very competitive, and then you said something after which is very counterintuitive. They're very competitive, and that's why we do well. Which for SEO, the two sentences normally wouldn't go together. Am I wrong?
Absolutely, but that's the way I approach it. Is that actually, if it's really difficult to do, then that's the opportunity.
So you're very much performance, you're very much ROI aware, you're very much
100%.
accountable.
It really winds me up how I don't think SEO as an industry is accountable to revenue. There's a lot of proxy metrics floating around, and we love going on the journey with our clients and challenging ourselves to get back to an ROI against the spend, because ultimately that's what they're looking for, and that's what they would expect from PPC. That's what they'd expect, from any other channel where you can measure it. And SEO is really difficult to measure, as is content. But that's why we have an analytics function. We spend our lives justifying our own existence, and we've just commercialised that into a product and packaged it up as an approach.
When you talk about accountability, when you talk about ROI, when you talk about performance in SEO, in content and organic, what do you measure? How do you measure? Where do you start?
The first thing we have to do is to understand somebody's business. Again, if I had a complaint around the SEO industry, it would be that it's quite superficial in terms of the things that we're interested in and the level of detail we take to care about something. If you don't understand how a business works, what their margins are, how they generate their revenue, what other revenue streams they have coming in, like their entire ecosystem within marketing, digital and offline, until you understand that, then you're not going to do a wonderful job of understanding how to do something that is of value to the business. And we always want to get to revenue, of course we do, but at the same time, further up the funnel, there are different things that you might want out of things. So, we do some really interesting stuff with people, trying to drive people slightly further up the funnel, but with the KPI of trying to drive email signups. And then we work with them on their email, and we say, okay, now how can you help push those people through the funnel through segmentation of the people who signed up at that part of the funnel, and we just work with people there to understand how we can push people. Eventually we will get to revenue.
You need to gain their trust
hugely.
How do you do that?
Well, again, it's just working with them. I think it's also understanding that that's the case is huge. Like if we sign a new client, one of the first things I'll do, I told you about this, we'll write them a letter. And I'll say, actually, I completely understand that you are staking your decision-making reputation on hiring Builtvisible.
That's awesome.
Like I get it. Like I've bought suppliers into this business, and they've been terrible, and I've bought some that have been brilliant, and I know what feels good, and I know what I feel a bit embarrassed about. So I get that, and I think just connecting with someone on that level really facilitates those conversations, basically. And obviously we have a wonderful team, they can take care of the details, but that's really important to me.
Talking about whys, actually, I find that many businesses, they get driven by something that is different and perhaps detached from the final materialistic outcome, right? We see that at Genie. Money, profit, growth, they're all great metrics, and also important because they allow businesses to survive and to grow and to do special things, whether that's investing in people development or whether to do philanthropic stuff. But financial success only takes you so far. What is the real fuel underneath? What is your why? Why do you guys do what you do? What is that why that you keep remembering when they go and get stuff? And I'm sure it does sometimes.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we very much separate out outcomes from processes. That's a really big part of how we operate. So like you say, profit is an outcome. It's the result of a lot of very complex systems and processes that happen, and our jobs as an agency is to make sure that those processes do end up in that. Obviously that's the case, but we don't obsess over the outcomes, because that's when you lose that motive, not the motivation, but you lose the direction, you lose why you're doing something. So what we try and do is just separate ourselves away from that a little bit. Ultimately, an SEO agency does SEO, that's fine. And so what we try and focus on is delivering just very, very meaningful agency experiences. The reason that we sort of come to work every day is to give those experiences to the people that work for us, the people working for, and obviously the actual clients as well.
Delivering a meaningful experience for your customers, for your staff, and for your work.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So I guess that translates in different roadmaps for different actions, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, a meaningful experience is a hugely personal
That's right.
thing.
Exactly.
You know, really, really personal thing. And you know, so when you look at our staff, you know, I want to make sure that we cater for the person that wants to come in at 9 and leave at 5:30 every day. You know, it's fine. It's totally fine. If that's what they want out of the job, we give them, you know, we give them that, and we do a lot of work on keeping balance. Someone wants to come in and absolutely hammer it because they're just obsessed with getting to a certain point. Again, it's our job to cater for it. And it's the same with our clients. You know, I think part of that empathy for a client, you know, if you can understand what someone's trying to get out of their job. So do they want a pay rise? Do they want a promotion? Do they want to get out of their job? Do they need a case study to get out and get somewhere else? Again, if you're understanding that stuff at the beginning of the sales process, you're so aligned with them when you're working with them that all of a sudden that stuff, the reason you're doing it for them makes more sense, and doesn't change the actual what we do. You know, in terms of the product offering is always held to those set of values that ensure quality and, you know, the service levels we demand ourselves. But on a personal level, it really connects, and, you know, people by people is the old cliche, but it's completely true.
Well, cliches are cliches because they're true. That's how they become cliches. Right? So you talked a bit about people. You are in Shoreditch, right? We have made a strategic decision to remain in Cambridge. And it was very difficult at the beginning because it wasn't cool to be a non-London agency. It really wasn't. So now it's very cool. Now clients love us for it. But back then it was hard. Now you have a different challenge. It's not all easy because you're in Shoreditch, because your staff can walk out the door and probably get 10, 15, 20 offers a week because there are that many agencies all around, right? So how do you keep your staff? You know, people are young, perhaps they don't know how to play the long game. They get impatient and they get an offer that is perhaps a few £1,000s more a year, which is nothing in hindsight, but, you know, perhaps when you're young that means something to you. How do you keep your staff?
Well, again, you know, the financial aspect of jobs, again, is an outcome. You know, you've got to look at that. So, you know, we put an enormous amount of investment into our staff, and not just from a development standpoint, but in terms of, you know, we make sure that we have like really balanced lifestyles, that people do, they can work not what they want, but they, you know, they can have and achieve balance within their life. Again, whatever that is to them, and you know, we help facilitate that. You know, really take time to care for the guys that come in. You know, it's a real family unit. You know, we really do have each other's backs, which is amazing. And we have weekly training sessions where the guys learn about other parts of the business. They might not get all the exposure they want to. We have guest speakers come in. You know, I'm trying to hire people that want to get better. And if you hire the right person and they want to get better all the time, then if you can feed them with that, then actually that does a hell of a lot to retain staff.
But when you speak, I obviously get a sense that you brought a lot of your sporting skills into this business. Is that fair to say? And if so, have you pinpointed this, or how do you think about that? Yeah,
I was sort of a leader when I was playing, and there's obviously things that I've brought from the field, and like the notion of team is huge. You know, rugby is, again, cliche, but it's all, you know, it's 14 blokes trying to put the 15th guy over the line, and that's very much it. You know, we do have a very flat management structure. That's a really enjoyable thing for us. Keeps the connection, keeps the bond strong. Yeah,
that's great to hear. And obviously within this liberal and collaborative and flat structure, there must be what I call the non-negotiables, right? Both with clients and with staff. What are those for you as an MD? What are the non-negotiables with your staff and with your clients?
The way I look at it is be better at the things that require no skill. And there's 100 things that require absolutely no skill that actually nobody will notice if you do it, but they will notice if you don't. And those things are like just being on time, being passionate about what you're talking about, you know, treating people well. There's no skill involved in any of that. It's just having some discipline.
How about clients? What are the things that you're not going to take from clients irrespective of what they pay you? Are there such things?
Yeah, I mean, we have something that's contentious of whether we put it up on the wall in the office. I'm pretty keen to, but we just have the no dickheads policy, and it's
no dickheads policy.
It's pretty straightforward. But you know, my job is to, you know, I've got a duty of care to my guys, and if clients treat people badly, like, I don't really want to be doing business with people who treat other people badly. in the same way that I wouldn't expect someone to want to work for someone who treats people badly. An agency relationship is two ways. You know, like someone's invested in us, and it's their expectation that we invest back into them.
So that's interesting, and we're very much aligned with, you know, with most things we are aligned, which is great, and it makes this chat very, very easy and very smooth to do. But I like to kind of put a little bit of chill in it now. So when you joined SEO Gadget, how big were you guys then?
There was about 10 of us in a room.
What year was that?
So that was 5 years ago.
Good, 5 years. So you grew to 40 people.
Yeah.
In Shoreditch, arguably one of the best agencies in the UK for SEO and content. And it's so easy to make it sound nice and smooth, but I'm sure you bled, I'm sure you cried and scratched your head. And I'm really interested, and if you say something and then you regret, we can cut it. But I'm really interested to hear some of the horror, some of the pain, some of the horror stories.
But yeah, I mean, we've had growing pains. Of course, we have. We've made a couple of like poor hires in the past, and sort of had to come and sort those out, which is never a pleasant thing to do. But again, it's for the purpose, isn't it? Sure. If that's not right for the business, nothing personal. Unfortunately, it's not.
Geoff, tell me a story of when things really got hard, and you thought, okay, I'm like you. I don't quit if something that I do is something that I love, and I don't do stuff that I don't love. But there must have been times, certainly there were for me, when you thought, how am I going to get out of it?
I'll tell you what I will say is that I find that you can't solve problems on your own. So there might have been little instances where we have, like slow sales or having delivery issues or whatever it is, where if I haven't been around my team, I'll feel a bit isolated and I'll think, shit, I don't know how we're going to solve this. But actually getting back together with the team and talking about it, whether it's with Clouds FD or with some of the senior guys, heads of department, it just eradicates it. And I think it's more of a vulnerability through loneliness, really, than not being able to fix it. I've never felt like we can't fix anything yet. Yeah. And
there must have been failures in it, right? But there also must have been moments where you thought, we got it. Something happened. We over it now. We did it. Can you recall moments where you felt, damn it, there's more to do. But, I mean, we love this. This is good.
I think it's a little bit egotistical, but I think when I took over a couple of years ago, I looked at the business and the offering that we had, and it didn't make sense to me, and I sort of agonised over it and did a lot of work over about 6 months or so to just think about what we're doing, and most importantly, why we're doing it. Because if you think about why we're doing something, all of a sudden a load of stuff we were offering as services just didn't make any sense.
Right.
That got me super excited. It's quite a personal thing because it's, I took over from the guy that founded the company. He had taken it to a certain point, so it's quite daunting to say, actually, I want to change what we're doing here and move it on. But Richard is just such an incredibly supportive owner of the company that he completely backed me to do it. He was really happy with it, and now where we are is that we're iterating on that process, and once we get this resourcing and delivery stuff sorted out, actually we are on this cusp. If we just sorted our delivery out, for example, at the moment, we would be 30% more profitable than we are right now. Right. Like that.
So there was something in the way you talked about your FD there that suggested you delegate quite fully. So you take something, you give it.
It's a good example of something I wasn't very good at, and I probably still need to work on.
Okay.
I think trying to make yourself redundant is just, it's the thing to do. It just has to be a constant process of letting things go.
What was bad about you?
I just felt like I just tried to take everything on. And what happened was, I worked too hard, which meant I wasn't spotting things that are actually important. Right. It's difficult to prioritise a list of 100 things over a list of 10 things. Personally, I lost quite a lot of balance in life, which isn't great. Like a really harsh lesson in terms of how to delegate. But
right.
Unless you do it, unless you put faith in that team, you're not going to go anywhere because you're still just on your own.
And how are you better now?
How am I better now? I'm just a lot more protective over my time. A lot more protective, and by hiring the right people, albeit maybe slightly late, hiring the right people, getting them in, giving them ownership over their stuff. Like, own your shit is something I say all the time.
That's a great lesson for anyone out there really who's perhaps struggling with control, with letting go. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've learnt the hard way. You know, it has affected a lot of things, but I can see the benefit now. This is the thing, is that it's very, very tangible, and it's the only way you can actually move up to do the things that are actually important.
You know, one of the reasons we do these videos, interviews, is to hopefully help others avoid mistakes that we've already made, right? Because in hindsight, everything is simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you say, I learned the hard way. But, that's the way you learn, unless you're watching something like this. So.
I like the notion of constantly watching my back. You know, I don't think I'm this like polished MD that's got everything sorted out. You know, you have to constantly be okay with learning, and I like looking behind me, going, shit, there's someone coming up behind me, like these like super talented people who, like they could probably do a better job in a few years. So that's the challenge, is like staying ahead of that, but at the same time encouraging it.
So let's switch gears just slightly. I'd like to, in a moment, give some practical help and advice to Builtvisible wannabes, whether that's SEO agencies or creative agencies or whatever digital agencies. And then also like to talk to brands, and kind of help them understand a bit about perhaps how to recruit an SEO agency, how to do it in-house. Inevitably, as you grow, you become slower. I am a strong believer that lack of speed can really hurt organizations, because not only because you don't move and adapt so quickly, but also because there's a danger that the stuff can get bored. Because if you think about it, I see this happen with brands. A brand grows quite a lot, and a new e-commerce manager sees an opportunity in Germany, for example. She prepares a business plan to go to Germany. She takes a couple of weeks to do that. She works extra hours. She gives it to her boss. Her boss looks at it, impressed. She says, absolutely, I'll take it to my boss. She does so, in 3 weeks down the line. Her boss perhaps even plays with it. They take it to the board 3 weeks later. The board has comments because they don't understand the whole landscape. So 7, 8 weeks later, it comes back with feedback. 6 months have gone by before the decision is made, right? And somebody else has moved into the market. So how do you go about avoiding it that happens to you guys?
That's a good question. I think there's two things I think that are really important. So the first of all sort of ties back to what we were just talking about delegation. The part of not delegating is becoming your own bottleneck, right? So like just having, with having guys in the senior team or the leadership team that have complete ownership over their stuff and what they're doing, it's very, very easy for me to then say, actually, I think we should go over here. What do you think? And they go, yeah, okay, great, I'm going to do it. And they already understand the values of the business. They understand how the business works. They understand that I have complete faith in their abilities. They understand that it's probably a risk, and we're going to, all have an enjoyable time trying to do it. And then they just get on with it, and it's that. So there's no bottleneck.
Okay.
And the other side of it that's really important for us is that we have ownership over the notion of development, so product development. We have ownership specifically within the leadership team at senior level. So, we can't stand still with product development, for example. Service development is exactly the same. That just ladders up to service development. And there's somebody it's literally his job to develop things. And he built our analytics offering from nothing to a significant part of our P&L within about a year, which is crazy. And now we're pushing for Google certification, Google partner status, and all this kind of stuff, which is because we could delegate it and because there is global ownership of it.
So you started really, really focused on one area. And
we weren't too small. I thought when I took over, I did still feel like we were just obviously known for SEO. That's pretty much all we did.
Okay.
Landscape-wise, I just looked at what was going on, and I thought that was always going to limit us in terms of the types of clients we'd look to acquire, the type of work we'd look to acquire, and the kind of impact we'd be able to have on our clients. We'd be very limited in scope. Like I said earlier on, we wouldn't have the empathy for the wider business, we wouldn't, for the wider digital mix, etc. So we just broadened our specialisation slightly to incorporate SEO, content and analytics, not just SEO.
Okay.
But the game has been trying to control it, because actually within content, that is a huge remit.
Is it fair to then say that what you've done was kind of evolve rather than diversify for the sake of diversifying?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, diversification is probably a bit dangerous word to use, because you could just go out and become a TV agency if you want, but it's like that's not why we exist. That's not part of our DNA.
And also, I mean, what you guys do now seems to be very much interconnected, right? You can just really use these 3 branches, channels, or however you want to call them. So it sounds like you went from a place where you were a bit too technically minded to a bit where you were perhaps more commercially evolved, so to speak.
Yeah, that's it, and it does reflect this shift that I'm talking about, from being an SEO agency, where people go to an SEO agency for links, rankings, traffic. Traffic I can sort of get on board with, but just proxy metrics. Whereas if they come to an agency looking to own their organic presence, then all of a sudden the conversation we're having is how much revenue is that channel earning you? Not how many links can I build you. Which is
so if you're a smaller agency starting up, you got 2, 3, 4 people, what would your advice be for somebody who doesn't really know where to go? They know they've got technical abilities. SEO people normally come from technical backgrounds, they understand technical SEO. They want to become a larger agency. What is your advice for them in terms of understanding what's the right path for them?
I think it's developing products within what you currently do, and building out that product suite and that service suite with it. So say you're just like super specialised in SEO, right? Become incredible at that one thing. And what we've done is we've taken the mindset of an SEO and then applied it to content marketing. So it's still within our DNA. We haven't betrayed who we are. We haven't gone off and we don't do PPC, for example. Despite the fact it's search, it's not us. And we've got really, really good at that one thing, and then we've gone, actually we can apply that same mindset to this product offering of content and this product offering of analytics. And whenever we're doing product development or service development, and we're building out new things we can do for our clients and doing loads of R&D and that kind of thing, there is this intangible thing, which is, does it make sense for us?
When I do these things, when we do these videos, I really hope that some agencies, smaller agencies, see it and get inspiration. Because I truly believe, and it'll be interesting to see how you feel, I feel that if every single agency on the planet did a better job, in our case in paid media, in your case probably organic, every other agency on the planet would benefit from it. Because I think there's still an awful lot of people, potential customers, who don't trust you, who don't trust us as industries. They don't trust PPC, they don't trust paid, they don't trust SEO, in terms of using agencies to manage these channels. So my belief is that if every agency does well, then every agency will do better. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think broadly, like the role of the agency has to move away from being a service and actually, it is a cliche, everyone talks about it, but no one does it well, and actually become a partner and an extension of a team. That's why we focus a lot on experience and about what it's like to work with or for us. That, because if it's a really meaningful experience working with us as the client of Builtvisible, then actually that's the thing that will add value. Ultimately, the metrics are the metrics. And when I think the smaller agencies thing, a really bit of advice would be to focus massively on the customer service element. You have more chance to do that when you're very small, because you're grafting, you are clinging onto everything for dear life. You are, that old saying of you can't outsource giving a shit, you are completely disproving it because you're obsessed. One of the difficult things is scaling that notion. So actually, as a very small company, what you're looking for are things like stability, long-term commitment. You don't get any of that without developing really good relationships, really caring about the work that you do, the people that you're doing it for. And so I'll be investing just very heavily in that. When you're small, it's going to be someone very senior, running around like a bit of a headless chicken, but really giving a shit, basically.
Customer service.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
I agree. Pitch for this at the time would have been the biggest account. We go, we pitch, shortlisted, last 2 we lose. Go home, call them, great, please, hope it works out, please can you tell me why? Yeah, because the people that won it said that they were going to do exact match in their targeting. And I was like, is the phone really saying what I'm hearing? Are you serious? I mean, that actually I would be worried if they specified that.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was too late, right? And it made me realize the importance of detail and not taking for granted what the client should know. So from that moment on, the skeleton went from 10 slides to 95. We started detailing every single item that we would work on. And you know what? If you asked me before that happened, actually even probably a couple of days after, because I was bitter and not ready to accept it, I would have said, that's ridiculous. Well, you don't want detail. You just, people need to know that you do that stuff. If you ask me now, I'll say detail is important. So that was my horror story, because there was a big contract. We came home, and having lost it for something you do, just because you haven't said it, you do burned. What is your horror story in pitching? One that you went and pitched and you didn't win anything, or maybe you won it, but you won it underpriced. So something that really made you think, shit, we need to change stuff here.
Before we really looked at our sales process, we pursued everything. We would spend a week pulling an RFP together because we'd had it in from a huge brand, and we'd think, right, like the idea of that on the website, they're going to have a decent budget, they should be really good fun to work with, we can do some cool stuff, let's go for it. And we never said let's not go for it, and we did it repeatedly. So it's not like one hilarious horror story, it's just something that crippled us from a sales standpoint for a long time. Because we would go in and we'd spend a week filling in an RFP blindly. We wouldn't have got on the phone with procurement. We wouldn't have understood we wouldn't have talked through the RFP. And we did this for some huge brand. Like, yeah, I want them on the website, but the resource, like the hours and the days that my senior members of staff put into it, just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And qualifying out that's the big thing. Like we are selective about what we go for. Like they have to match a lot of criteria. They have to be willing to invest in our sales process in the same way we're investing in theirs. And it's one of the biggest things. It's unsexy. It's not a big catastrophe, but it's honestly held us back so much in terms of sales.
I guess it's one of those things that when you wake up from it, you think, shit, we've done it for so long.
It was horrible. We worked with a great guy who came in. I got recommended through a rugby friend, and he sort of worked with us on a bit of sales stuff and looked at it from just a fresh pair of eyes. And I remember we having a meeting with him saying, well, as long as you didn't do this, this and this, and listed a load of stuff, and then we went and started going through an RFP, and everything he said, we had obviously done it, and we were just like, oh shit.
How about brands? I mean, if there are brands, which I hope there will be, watching this, what is your advice for brands selecting an SEO agency? Because it's so hard. I mean, I know you guys, and I knew you guys from when Richard was running it, so. And then you came on board, and you and I met each other, and then kind of got to know each other, and we think alike in many ways. It's very easy for me to say go to Builtvisible, but if I don't know you and if I'm a brand, it's difficult because everybody will tell you we're good. There's no agency in hell that will come in and say, we do SEO, but we're not very good at it. We're pretty shit, right?
Yeah.
Everybody will tell you we're great. Everybody will show you the best case studies that maybe are 7 years old. Everybody will tell you they can do everything. Everybody they tell you they'll adjust the fee. Right, so how do you go as a brand to fishing out the good agency from the not so good agencies?
It's a very good question. I've actually recently written an article about this, and called the 10 difficult questions you need to ask your agency.
Awesome. We'll put a link in the video in the show notes.
Yeah, great. And the approach to that article is very much along what you're talking about. Everyone's going to come and they're going to tell you what they do, and they're going to give you a load of process, and they're going to, there will be stronger processes than others, there will be stronger case studies than others, but actually getting to the to the meat of how an organisation runs, how an agency runs, is a hugely valuable thing a brand can do to qualify and vet their selections, because it's a really difficult process. There's a lot on the line. There's lots of moving parts. You've got you've got reputations at stake. Personal ego comes into it. It's a big investment. So within the article, I talk about things like getting to grips and understanding how an agency performs financially. Like, are they responsibly run? Is your agency going to be around in a year's time?
So you'd actually go into company's house?
Yeah, go to company's house, have a look. Do you know what? Ask your biz dev person who's dealing with it from the agency. Because if they don't know, then how are they going to understand your business? If they don't understand their own business performance, then that's a challenge I'd put down for a biz dev person.
Okay, so due diligence on the health of
the business. There's loads of metrics around that as well. One of the other ones was staff retention. So how do you retain your staff? Because agencies typically have a ridiculous turnover. We put so much effort into our staff that on average we have guys here for 4 or 5 years, and that's hugely powerful because it means a brand is investing in something solid. That aren't going to go anywhere. And outside of all the those sort of things around profit turnover, staff turnover, just when it comes to the work side of things, it kills me, case studies, because people just use the same old case studies over and over again that are out of date. So when did that happen? Let's get the dates on the chart. When was that? Do you still work with them? If not, why not? Things like the last client you lost and why, because that is a conversation you should be having, and self-awareness around why that happened. Because what did you learn from it as well? And I think the final one as well that's similar to the case studies is award entries. So a lot of people dine out on award entries. I think it just be shortlisted the other day for awards where SEO agencies are entering awards for campaigns that they've done 3 years ago that they've already won awards for. I would question the legitimacy of the data because there's no auditing on it. So, we've won awards, like it's an important thing, it is a credibility play, but I would place absolutely zero weight on it in terms of a decision-making criteria because, and that's just my opinion. You guys are really award-winning, we've won a couple of awards. It's not to say there's no value, but particularly within SEO, no one's auditing any of the data, no one's looking at it, it's all about who you know. Whereas, I spend a entire life trying to just do really good work for people, and if I want to be rewarded for something, that's what I want to be rewarded for, not who I know or.
Yes, we won a few awards. The one that we're the most proud of are the Google Awards because there's none of that. We did hire this young woman that went on to become the head of account excellence, and she's incredible. She's amazing. And she was moving to Cambridge, and she went through the adaptation of changing ways, and she really got it. She became a Genie hero very quickly, and now she's incredible. She's doing a massive career, jump every so often. And she worked on a campaign for the previous agency that won this previous agency an award. We then, when she came to us, we went to another award ceremony, and the same agency she used to work at won the award that night with an award that she had, and that was years before. So I can totally get what you're saying.
It breaks me.
Yeah, it's good. So for brands, health of the business, staff happiness, so to speak, relevant case studies, recent and relevant, talking about clients that we lost, and whether the awards that the agency won are actually legitimate.
I think one thing I'd add as well is what's the longer term vision for the agency. Again, your business person should know that if they're invested in that company, from a deeper standpoint than just money, then they'll know where it's going, and that should really excite someone. If an agency doesn't know where it's going, then what are you buying into?
That's right.
That's a great question to ask as well if you're a brand.
So if you are a brand and you have an in-house team that looks after SEO, at what point do you start looking for external help?
Great question. I think there's a few scenarios. So one of them is you need scale quickly, and that's a really interesting process to bring someone on board who's really agile and can react and adapt, and can help you. If the ultimate aim, obviously, for a lot of people is to in-house everything. So if you can come in, give them scale immediately, prove the model, then actually, because you're such an extension of that team, you can then help integrate new people into the team. I think that's a really interesting piece of work. I've done that a few times. They're so fun to do. I think the other thing is just if you have gaps in your knowledge, and that's where again specialist agencies just come into it, because you can just immediately buy in a specialism. So if it's in something super complex JavaScript SEO issue that's holding you back, you've got an outlet with an agency to just actually solve that problem really, really quickly. It makes you look very, very good as an in-house, in a brand side.
What's the future? What's the mission going forward? What's the vision for the next 2 or 3 years?
The future is growing. Is growing our client base. Is growing the number of people in the business, growing our revenue, obviously, but critically doing so in a scalable and sustainable way. So we're not going to exponentially grow and add 50 people in straight away, because the model that we have and the specialist approach that we take will break. And so we have to have some conservatism around that, because otherwise if we're compromising our product and the service we actually offer people and that experience, then we're doing it completely wrong. We're motivated by the wrong things. So it's continued growth. There'll be an exit at some point, but the process of getting there, like, we're comfortable that we're doing the right things, that we're getting it as far as we can take it, basically. And there's just loads we can do.
And what does Builtvisible look like 1 year from now in terms of stuff? Do you have that in mind? Is that a process you've gone through?
Yeah, 1 year from now we'll probably be around 50 people, which is really exciting. We'll all be in one room, which is the best thing, really. And we'll be moving a lot faster. We'll be able to react to things. We'll have much better common shared learnings, because we're all in one room. Right. So despite the fact we'll start to scale, what we'll really understand in a year's time is, first, does the model work, but secondly, do we actually, can we accelerate? Can we accelerate within those parameters? Because at the moment we're physically divided in an office. We're working on the resourcing stuff. Our product offering, our service offering is still evolving. Our client servicing processes are evolving hugely. The sum of all those parts, they should be sort of in place. Q4.
If one of these 10 people that want to join Builtvisible in the next year is watching this now, what do they need to do to join the company?
Send us a letter. Write to us to get on the radar. Like, proactivity is amazing. We've hired people because they've been proactive and they've just gone, do you know what? I offer this, this, and this. I think I'm a really good fit, and these are the reasons. They understand where we're coming from, and just if somebody's looking to join, I think the profile we're always after is, are they a self-starter? Do they take complete ownership of their self-development? Do they buy into, they've got evidence of buying into sort of cultures and really developing something, and do they just own what they do? I think one of the things I love about coming to work is just watching people own what they do, and watching people just take things in their own way, and do things and reflect their personality all over it, and really add value in that way, because it just moves everyone else forward. It keeps everyone else on their toes. Just real self-starters, and you can do anything to get on someone's radar. We love out-the-box thinking, so they can turn up at the office if they want and tell us we want a job.
What pisses you off?
What pisses me off? People not doing what they said they were going to do is hugely irritating. If you're turning up late, if you're not polite, they're just such simple things that nobody has had to train you in. It's just about being a good human being.
What's your favorite word?
Favorite word? Builtvisible, of course.
Awesome, that's the best answer.
Closely followed by Genie goals.
Awesome, that's a great answer. What's your favorite noise or sound?
Favorite noise? Do you know what? Everyone will rib me about this at work, but it's the noise that my nose makes.
Awesome, that's the best answer.
Closely followed by Genie goals.
Awesome.
Since I broke it last time.
Awesome, that's the best answer.
Closely followed by Genie goals.
Awesome.
You'll see me constantly doing this because I need to get it fixed. It's all over the side of my face. What noise does it make? It makes a squeaking noise. I don't know if I can get it on the mic.
Awesome, that's the best answer.
Closely followed by Genie goals.
Awesome.
It's pretty ridiculous. So I have to embrace it because it's not going anywhere.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.